So in the last two modules, we started building our Rocky Space game. What we have now is a moving backdrop, and then we have our spaceship. So we can also control our spaceship from left to right. Good. So it looks like our spaceship is flying through space, and that's really cool. So now we're going to add obstacles. So we're going to go to our library to choose a sprite. Now you can choose any obstacle that you want, a ball soccer, but I'm going to use rocks. So it's going to look a bit realistic. So where's rocks are? Okay, so that's that, rocks. Okay. Now, of course, the rock is too big, so I'm going to reduce the size. Yeah, I think that's fine. All right, so what you want is that your rock should always start somewhere at the top, right? So it means that you can set your Y to 180. So let's go to events. When clicked, motion, go to Y would always be maybe 180. But the question is, what value are you going to set in your X? If you use any value here, it would always start at that position, right? And it wouldn't make too much sense because I can just keep my spaceship here and then all the rocks will just keep falling, right? So one thing we could do is to use something we call random numbers. Now, a random number, it would pick a random number between whatever value you have here and whatever value you have here. So for example, pick a random number between 1 and 10. The first time you run it, it could be 2. The second time you run it, it could be 10. The third time you run it, it could be 3. So it will be very random, right? So one thing we could do is to use this block and put it inside the X, right? So it's going to go to a random value of between 1 and 10. But since we want it to go and we want it to start anywhere here, let's say pick a random number between say minus 200 and say plus 200, right? So watch what happens. The first time it's starting at this point. When I click it again, it goes to that point. Again, it goes to that point. So can you see that it's very random? That's good. So that's what we want. We want it to go to a random value. Now, the same way we did the stars and we made it glide all the way down is the same way we're going to do it for the rocks. So we're just going to do it again. Let's look at what we did. We have hide, go to wait, forever. So forever, show, glide. So motion. Actually, let's use the looks. So show. At the beginning, you want to hide it. And then show, you want it to glide, motion. So glide all the way down. Now, the amount of seconds you put here would let you know how fast it's going to go. So let's use something like 4 seconds. And then we want it to go to... Now, the question is, what value are we going to use in our X? Since it's a random number, we don't know what value X will be every time. So we can use this block here, X position, right? So it would pick the position it was. It would glide to the X position, and then Y, we want it to go to minus 180. So let's see what this does now. So can you see that? Right? So at this point, we want it to hide, right? So let's hide it. Let's run it again and see what happens. Yeah, can you see it started at a different position? Let's hide it. Let's do it again. Good. So we want this to always happen. So we're going to use a forever block. So let's see that. Yeah, so can you see it's dropping? Wonderful. That's what we want. Good. And then let's play our game right now. So can you see that? So we're trying to avoid the rocks. Wonderful. So one thing we could do is to duplicate the rock so I will make it realistic, or make the game a bit more difficult. So right click and duplicate. So now we have 2 rocks. Great. And then if you want to make your game really difficult, instead of having it glide for 4 seconds, you can choose a random time. And then some rocks will go faster and some will go slower. So maybe pick a random time between 1 and say 4. Right. Let's do the same thing for this one. Pick a random number between 1 and 4. And then you notice that some will go faster and some will go slower because it's the time, it's the glide time. Yeah. So now our game is coming together. In the next module, we'll just add the finishing touches, like what happens when the rock hits the spaceship. Right now, nothing happens.